Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of my dating app Showdown series, where I'm going to be exploring a whole range of mobile dating apps to see which ones perform best. I'm Damien Dieker, and I've been a dating coach for the last 10 years and an online dating coach for the last 3. In part 1, I went through exactly how I decided to create an online dating profile for testing, including the photos that I chose and the bio that I wrote up. I then created a fresh Tinder profile to see what kind of results I could really get. To go ahead and watch that, if you missed it, click on the link up here. Today, I'm going to create a brand new Bumble profile, and I'm going to look at how Bumble compares to Tinder, especially when I look at how many women I can match with, how attractive those women are, how responsive those women are, and see if there's a difference, which I prefer, Tinder or Bumble. To find out, keep watching. On the surface level, the Bumble app is very similar to Tinder. You download it on your phone, you sign up using Facebook, you choose 6 or so photos, you upload them, you create a written bio of yourself, you set a distance range to search for women, and you start swiping left on right and right on women you'd like or wouldn't like to meet. However, the big difference, or one of the big differences on Bumble, is that on Bumble, you can match with a woman, but a woman has to start the conversation with you first. The other difference is that even once a woman's first messaged you, you have 24 hours to message back. If you don't message her back within 24 hours, you'll also lose the connection. Now, the idea behind this is that it will help to reduce kind of ghosting behaviors in both men and women by forcing them to take action, or they lose out on that match forever. We'll discover whether that works or not in a moment. The profile that I created for Bumble is an exact replica of my Tinder profile. There's no differences whatsoever. However, there is something that I do want to address today from my part 1 video, some of the comments that came up and some of the comments that have come up on my previous online dating videos. And that's this. Guys have said to me, Damien, some of the photos you got are really good. They're really high quality, flattering photos. And that's all fine and well, but when women meet you in real life and you don't look exactly like those photos, they're going to be disappointed and they're going to feel like you've wasted their time. And I want to address this because I think it's a valid question to ask, even though I disagree, and I'll explain why. It's certainly a valid one to ask me. So, first of all, I will say all these photos are recent. So it's not like I'm using photos of 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago when I was like weighed half as much or when I was twice as buff, because I used to be really quite well built as well. I haven't used any of those photos. All those photos are me. They are real photos of me. They're just very flattering photos. So let me ask you a question. Think about your favorite hamburger joint. I love hamburgers. I don't know about you, I love hamburgers. Think about your favorite hamburger joint. When you go and you order a hamburger from that place, okay, you can see the picture they have of that hamburger, and you know that the real hamburger isn't necessarily going to look like that. And when you get that burger in a box, you open the box, and what does it look like? Well, I tell you what, it doesn't look like that photo, right? It never does. Never looks like that photo. That photo is an ideal version of that burger. Now, it's not lying. It's got all the same elements. It is exactly the same. It's not bigger or smaller, hopefully, than advertised. But it doesn't quite look so ideal. And yet, you keep returning to that burger joint. Why? Well, I'll tell you the reason why. The reason why you keep returning is because the experience of eating that burger is so great, you don't care if it doesn't look exactly how it did in the photo. Okay? And online dating is a little bit like this, because you can't lie in your photos. They can't be, as I said, they can't be you from 10 years ago or anything like that. It's got to be real photos of you, but they can be flattering, because the idea is that the date with you should be incredible. If the date with you is crap, even if your photos represent you perfectly, it's going to do you no good. And this has been my experience too. When I've been on dates, I didn't go on dates with any of these women I matched with because I'm in a relationship now, but in the past with online dating, I never had women sort of not want to meet me for a second date. They always wanted to see me again and again and again. And that was because just the experience was great. I was fun, I was engaging, I was someone they wanted to be around more. So it doesn't have to be a problem. As long as you're not lying in the photos, not a problem at all. Just like my Tinder profile, on my Bumble profile, I created it at 4 p.m. and then at 5 p.m., I jumped on to see how many matches I had. I hadn't done any swiping yet. At this point in time, Bumble said that I had 50 plus matches. 50 plus women had swiped right on me. Didn't tell me anything more than that. So I went in, I started swiping. I swiped left and right to try to match with 10 women. Now, what I discovered is a big difference between Bumble and Tinder is that when Tinder decides which women to show you, it pushes the women who have right swiped on you towards the front of the deck. So that in the beginning, when you first hop on Tinder, if you got lots of matches, you'll tend to get a lot of any girl you swipe right will be a match. I didn't get that with Bumble. And I got a lot more matches on Bumble. I'll talk about how many matches I was getting a day. Right swipes from women I was getting a day on Bumble compared to Tinder in a minute, but I was getting more on Bumble. And yet I had to go through a lot more profiles to find those women. Now, in the beginning, I thought this was a little bit irritating because, of course, it just took up more of my time and I had to hunt through more profiles, yada, yada, yada. But actually, on retrospect, I actually think it's a really great thing. It's a good thing because it means that more people are going to get their profiles seen on Bumble than they will on Tinder. And this has often been one of the big problems on Tinder is less great looking guys often don't get as many women seeing their profiles. But if women actually really have to hunt through to find the people who've matched with them, that seems a little like it might actually add a little bit more fairness, a little bit more equality to the equation. So thumbs up. I think that could prove to be a really, really good feature. For this test, I spent 3 days actually swiping left and right on women's profiles. And I would just continue swiping until I had matched with 10 women a day. So I had matched with 30 women in total. At the end of that time, Tinder still told me I had over 50 matches or over 50 women who had right swiped me. If you'd like to know how many matches I was actually getting, here's a screen capture from my email so you can see day by day over the first 5 days how many women were swiping right on me on Bumble. And you can see it's a very high volume. It's a much higher volume, I believe, than Tinder was. Again, so this is a big sort of thumbs up. It's a big step in the right direction for my feelings about Bumble overall. Now, one of the things about online dating that guys often suffer with a lot is flakiness, right? Women's flaky behavior. You start talking, they don't talk back, they don't reply, all this kind of stuff. So as you should expect on Bumble, or as you may expect, the number of conversations that even got started on Bumble was lower because women had to make the first move. So on Tinder, I got, if memory serves correctly, I got about 80%. So if I messaged a woman, 80% of them would respond. On Bumble, it was only about 65 to 70% of women would actually start a conversation with me. So the number of matches I'd get to the number of conversations that would get started were lower. But of the conversations that started, the number of women who actually followed through and got into a long conversation, by the way, I've defined a long conversation as at least 30 replies. The number of women who would get into a long conversation with me was dramatically higher at about 70%. So that was much higher than on Tinder. So once you did get chatting on Bumble, the conversations on average went longer. Women would invest far more. And I really like this. I think that was really good because I wasted, I guess, a lot less time and a lot less creative energy trying to get conversations started. One thing that I did find interesting on Bumble is, you know how like on Tinder, women always complain, guys, put in more effort in your first message. Why are guys so lazy with first messages? And yet every single message I got from a woman on Bumble was, apart from 2 of 30, apart from 2 of them, every single first message I got from women was something along the lines of, hi, how are you? Hey, Damien, how has your week been? So there you go. Women are just as shitty as men when it comes to creating first messages. So where does Bumble fit on the casual sex relationship, long-term relationship spectrum? Like, what is it more geared towards? First of all, I'll say it's definitely more geared towards long-term relationships. Women who want long-term relationships is definitely much more what Bumble's about. However, there's a caveat to this in that something Bumble does that Tinder doesn't is it allows you to say what you're looking for in your profile from a relationship. So you can say things like looking for a relationship, looking for something casual, or not decided yet. And this can be really useful because if you're talking to a woman and you can see in her profile that it says something casual, then you already know off the bat. Now, not as many women put this in the profile. Many women will just say undecided yet, or they won't even answer the question. But a large number of women say looking for a relationship. Obviously, just because a woman says looking for a relationship doesn't mean that she wouldn't be open to something casual. I know that, you know that, your dog probably knows that. But this does still help to act as a little bit of a guideline, right? So I found that pretty cool. Now, another interesting trend that I noticed on Bumble was that there appeared to be a lot more single mums on there. Now, I don't know that this is specifically the case. It just appears that way. I'll explain myself here. I match with a number of women on Bumble that I also match with on Tinder. And to get a little bit deeper into this, I also spoke with a number of friends who use both Bumble and Tinder and looked at their profiles, the women that they had that were identical on both Tinder and Bumble. And one thing I noticed was that a few of the women that I matched with in both platforms, they had photos or showed or spoke about the fact they had children on Bumble, and they didn't do that on Tinder. So it could be that because Bumble is more relationship focused, more women feel okay or safe to talk about the fact that they've got children. Ergo, there may be just as many single mums on Tinder. It's just not as obvious as it is on Bumble. So that was a little bit hard to say. But an interesting side note that I noticed while sort of studying this a little bit, this actually surprised me immensely. I mentioned earlier that you could say what kind of a relationship you were looking for. And the demographic of women who were by far the most likely to say, I'm looking for something casual, or undecided yet, as opposed to saying, I want a relationship, were the single mums. So single mums seem to be the best candidates as far as a singular demographic for something more casual, something not necessarily so serious. So it appears as though, a lot of times women, they get into long-term relationships with a guy, they have a child, and they break up. And these women learn that life isn't all about having a long-time man. You can't necessarily trust a long-term partner. So why not just enjoy life and make the most of it? So, more power to those women. But that was a really surprising discovery that I made. And the big question, how attractive are women on Bumble compared to Tinder? I'm pleased to say, actually, that from the women that I actually matched with, I was matching with more attractive women on Bumble than I was on Tinder. So not only was I matching with more women, I was matching with more attractive women. So that was pretty cool. But I still do need to say that I can meet more attractive women on average in bars, clubs, out on the street doing cold approaching. That was still at play. The other thing that was also at play was I think Bumble has more high quality women. I hate using that term, high quality, but what I mean is just slightly more intelligent, more going for them. Their lives are slightly better put together kind of women on Bumble than on Tinder. So that's what I mean by high quality. But again, I can meet better quality women, not looks aside, just women who are better put together in real life than I can on Bumble again. So, you got to take all that into account. But even as I say that, there are lots of really attractive women on Bumble. And I know that most guys don't want to go through the process of learning to approach women cold. I know that's a skill set some guys are going to want to learn, and man, I teach that for a living, so I totally support it, but other guys aren't going to, and I'm okay with that. I don't think it's something every man has to try to master. If you can meet women online, more power to you, and there are pretty cool women to be met online. However, the one thing that was common with Bumble and Tinder that I expect is going to be a normal trend with online dating is this. I was still meeting women who are much older than I would normally meet in real life. So Bumble is matching me with women who are almost all over 30. I'm a 35-year-old guy, and almost all the women who I'm matching with are over 30. I'm not getting matched with women, a few, obviously, but not a lot of women under 30. And now in real life, I'd go out and I would think nothing of approaching a 25-year-old, 24-year-old, 26-year-old. That wouldn't enter my head to think there was anything strange about that, and I'd have perfectly fine success. That wouldn't be an issue at all. So there is a limitation. If you're older and you want younger women, if that's a requirement, it doesn't have to be, but it may be, and it will be for some of you, then again, cold approaching is going to be better for that. You can do it with online dating. I have a whole section in the course that I run, because I run a course on online dating. For older men wanting to meet younger women online, there's a whole process to it. But on average, it's going to be easier cold approaching to master that. So with all that being said, what's my overall opinion of Bumble? I was pleasantly surprised. I feel like Bumble's come a long way since, I don't know, the last 3 or 4 years. I think it started 5, 6 years ago. I can't remember, but it's really come a long way. And I think it's gained a lot of popularity. It appears that because Bumble is more relationship focused and it places some of the power in women's hands, and I don't mean that negatively. I mean that because women feel comfortable, I think women feel more comfortable on on Bumble than they do on Tinder. It attracts better women, and it makes women less likely to flake because they get to make the first move. They feel they've got a sense of control. I never felt like I was at a disadvantage because women got to make the first move. I thought it took pressure off me. The women who did make the first move, I got to have a long conversation with. And the women were more attractive. So yeah, overall, I much preferred Bumble. If I had to choose between the two, I mean, in real life, if I was single tomorrow, I'd probably use both apps. Heck, why not? But honestly, if I had to pick one, I'd definitely go with Bumble. I had the better experience there. So if you're wondering how I got such great results with my profiles, because I know that most of you won't be getting such good results as I am, I'll tell you this. I've been doing this and coaching this for a long time, and I run a whole online training course that teaches guys how to create online dating profiles that will not fail. So if you want to learn more about that course, I've got a link below. But what I'm also going to give you away for free, that anyone who clicks on that link, you'll see it when you hit the landing page, there is a free 21-point cheat sheet for finding the perfect profile photos to use so that you get more matches. Because one of the most important parts of any profile are the photos that you choose. So if you want to learn how to pick the perfect profiles for your Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, whatever online profile, go ahead and click that now. If you want to find out more about my online course, click that link right now. Thanks for watching part 2. I'll be back next week with part 3, where I'm going to be reviewing the Hinge online dating app. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on that, and I look forward to seeing you for my future videos. Take care.